Okay, here's a quick look at How High the Moon. I'm going to play the arrangement as it's written. The thing with my arrangements is I write them out when I create them, which I usually either make them up or I copy other people's arrangements, maybe a Barney Kessel arrangement or something like that, Kenny Burrell. Or I maybe take part of another arrangement and combine it with my own. Anyways, often what I've created in the beginning is what I start with, but then over time, as I get more comfortable with the tune, it evolves into something slightly different. So I'm going to play it as written, but this isn't, it's somewhat of an exercise for me because I have to play it to represent it as it is on the paper. And it has evolved for me over time. But here it is as it is on the paper. Top, second inning. Okay, what would I say about it? There's some passing stuff, you know. That right there is just filler. This too. Those two, that D flat 7 chord going to the C7, just filler. That's filler. F minor 7, the B7 to the B flat is just filler, so just filling out the harmony for the listener. Whenever we have this 6-string root dominant 9 sus4, like the first chord, you could flat the 9 too. This note right here, you could play it a half step lower if you barred the second and first string. You'd have dominant 7 sus4 flat 9. It's rather pretty. If I did that instead, you know, on the first line here, we've got D flat 9 sus4, and then at the end of that line we have C 9 sus4, and wherever that chord occurs, where else? Down at the bottom, we have a dominant 9 sus4. You could, instead of playing like D9 sus4, you could play D flat 9 sus4. And sometimes you could, and sometimes you could play it the other way. That's the flat dominant 9, dominant 7, flat 9 sus4. The way it's written is, which is bright. We could go flat 9 too. Your choice. Now here on the third line, A minor 7, I have a bass note in it. I have it written like this, as a bar. And sometimes I play it just as on the inner 4 strings, 7th, which is E, A, C, and G. Sometimes I'll play that A minor 7 like that, but if I want the bass note, I might. First ending. Now here, after the first ending, we come to A half diminished, which shows a bass note, A bass. Sometimes I'll leave that out. If I want to hear the bass note, here's the end of the second line, E flat major 7. There's hearing the bass note on the A. Sometimes I'll leave it out. E flat major 7. It's a little bit more balanced that way, but maybe, you know, depending on if I have a bass player or not. And here at the end of the third line, A minor 7, I'll put the bass in sometimes. Oop. So yeah, it starts at the beginning and plays through here. And then the first time you take the first ending, play up to the repeat sign, then we go back to the beginning, play through here, and then jump down and play it out with the second ending.